I'm Emily, and Jake, who is 2 years my senior, is a man of science, living out his childhood dream with a fulfilling research job. Despite his busy schedule, he seems content. Our 3-year-old son, Mike, shares Jake's love for observation and experimentation, currently fixated on the goldfish he snagged at the fall festival. Meanwhile, our 1-year-old daughter, Sarah, is a delightful eater with her adorable chubby white cheeks, bringing comfort and joy to our household. Life is generally good for our ordinary family, except for one recurring concern: dinner. Just as I was trying to soothe my crying daughter and finish preparing dinner, the doorbell rang. Without hesitation, my mother-in-law walked in, a frequent visitor around this time, enough for Mike to hardly glance away from the TV. "My goodness, fried food again," she exclaimed, expressing concern about its impact on Jake's stomach and the grandkids. Mike, however, loves it. My mother-in-law swiftly took charge, offering a creamy vegetable stew and minestrone, enough to last for at least 3 days. As she set the table, my spirits sank at the sight of the mostly carrot and cabbage-filled stew. Interrupting my thoughts, she insisted I pack up the food she brought. Despite its lack of appeal, wasting food was not an option. This routine, familiar since her last unexpected visit, where she swapped my clam chowder for her fried chicken, concluded with her leaving without acknowledging her grandchildren. After she left, my son softly remarked, "Grandma took my fried chicken again." My heart ached at his sad face, but I assured him there was a little meat left. As I heated up the oil, I felt relieved seeing my son's joyful reaction to the promise of more food. Yet beneath the surface, my dissatisfaction lingered. My mother-in-law's intrusion had escalated since my marriage, peaking over the last year. Each week, unannounced during dinner prep, she would criticize my cooking and parenting, leaving her cream stew behind. In the past 6 months, she started taking our food home, undermining our meals. As I juggled baby food and distracted the kids, the tough task of cooking continued. My family's happiness kept me going, but my fried chicken, braised pork, mapo tofu, and hamburgers, all of it, ended up in her hands. I inherited a love for cooking from my restaurant-running family, particularly my dad, who taught me the art. Confident in my culinary skills, I firmly believe that my cooking surpasses my mother-in-law's overly sweet cream stew. However, since Mike, our son, entered the picture, I've found it challenging to assert myself against his grandmother. When Jake, my husband, returns home after the kids have gone to sleep, he grimaces at dinner. With only Mike's share of fried chicken remaining, I serve Jake a generous portion of the cream stew, resigned to the fact that it's what my mother-in-law brings over. Frustrated by having my skills undermined, I express my discontent to Jake, urging him to tell his mother if he doesn't like it. Jake, as non-committal as ever, pokes at the stew, avoiding confrontation with his mother. Despite her intrusion during Sarah's nap time and taking away Mike's favorite foods, Jake rationalizes it by mentioning her loneliness since his father's passing 2 years ago. I sigh deeply, realizing Jake tends to avoid confrontation when his mother is involved. The only relief is that she hasn't suggested moving in yet. Tired of the routine, my mother-in-law surprises me with a different proposition during one of her dinner visits. She announces that everyone will gather at our place for Christmas this year, a departure from the usual family reunions at her brother-in-law's or her childhood home. Responding with little enthusiasm, I wonder how she plans to host the gathering. She frowns at my apparent lack of understanding and declares that I'll be helping too, assigning me tasks for the 24th. Despite my quick objections, she dismisses my concerns, suggesting I use a baby carrier for Sarah. Not only am I expected to clean up, but I'm also entrusted with preparing the full-course Christmas meal, with a strict warning against repackaging store-bought food or serving anything that tastes bad. Stunned by the audacity of her decision, I try to object, but my mother-in-law, satisfied with her directives, leaves abruptly. When I share the news with Jake that night, he is as bewildered as I am. We contemplate her plans to host a Christmas party, inviting relatives from both his dad's and her sister's families. Frustrated, I finally lose my temper, expressing my feelings of always being pushed around. Jake, realizing the severity of the situation, goes silent and, with a resigned sigh, agrees to handle the cleaning and entertaining of relatives. I'm relieved to hear Jake's proposal. It provides some direction. However, he adds a request. Can you still cook the full-course Christmas meal? Jake gazes at the meatloaf his mother-in-law left for us, making it hard to refuse. After some hesitation, I reluctantly agree. Just for this year, let's keep Mom's reputation intact. Plus, everyone in the family loves your cooking, he pleads. Fine, just for this year. Thanks, man. I can't wait for Emily's Christmas feast, he says cheerfully. I brace myself, knowing it's just for this time, and agree to prepare a full-course Christmas meal. When I inform my mother-in-law that Jake will stay over to help with cleaning, she makes the displeased face, commenting on how the man of the house shouldn't do such things. Despite her discontent, she seems reasonably satisfied seeing Jake bustling around at his parents' home for my sake. Then comes Christmas lunchtime. Emily, is the corn soup ready? I'm preparing the croutons now. I respond, scurrying around the kitchen to get the carpaccio and corn soup ready. You're so inefficient. I'll bring the food myself, she declares. I'm sorry. If you're going to complain, try preparing a meal for 20 people. It's really exhausting. Finally, the serving is done, and I sit down at the party. Jake, having put our daughter down for a nap in another room, has been supportive. Preparing a full-course Christmas meal for 20 people was challenging, but it feels good to see everyone enjoying my cooking. However, that good feeling lasts only a moment. This quiche looks so beautiful. It's like something you'd buy. Thank you. Geez, you're good at flattery. This carrot slaw is perfectly balanced with the vinegar. The orange scent really freshens up your mouth. That's because Christmas meals tend to be rich, so I made it a bit more acidic. Something's off. Every time someone tries to compliment my Christmas cooking, mother-in-law interrupts. Something is not right, she declares, revealing the source of this awkwardness. Sophia, father-in-law's sister, comments, Emily, mother-in-law is such a great cook, isn't she? Confused, I let out a dumbfounded sound. Unperturbed, Sophia continues her story. Did Olivia make this entire Christmas feast? That's amazing. Huh? I haven't cooked a full-course Christmas meal in ages. I was going to leave it to my daughter-in-law, but she's absolutely terrible in the kitchen and never comes by, even when I offer to teach her. Mother-in-law talks about struggles she never even faced, leaving me puzzled. Oh, Emily, you should really take after Olivia while she's still well. Jake might miss the taste of home sometimes, you know. The way to a man's heart is through his stomach. Daniel, a relative hanging around, laughs as if mocking me. You know, Olivia, that pork belly stew you made last time was delicious. It's amazing you can cook both Western and Japanese dishes. It's not that big of a deal, but I'm glad you enjoyed it. Mother-in-law smiles and feigns humility. That pork belly stew was clearly my creation. As I stand there astonished, she mouths, "Go along with it." Apparently, she's been claiming all my dishes, including the Christmas feast, as her own and sharing them with the family. Now she wants me to be complicit in her lie. No way, especially after she's been criticizing my cooking all this time. Though I want to speak out. Overwhelmed by the crowd, I find myself speechless until my young son becomes my unexpected savior. Mom, this omelet is really tasty. It looks different than usual, but your omelets are always good, echoes his high-pitched voice, silencing the noisy adults. Sophia, perhaps out of kindness, attempts to cover for my son, saying, "Oh, Mike, this is actually what your grandmother made." Astonished, my son responds, "Huh? But it's tasty, so it's got to be Mom's omelette." Grandma's omelette is super sweet and gritty. It doesn't taste good. He passionately insists, gesticulating wildly, leaving the adults exchanging puzzled glances. Panic ensues, and the mother-in-law tries to intervene, saying, "Emily, don't teach the child to lie." Excuse me? Who's the one lying here? Mom, am I a liar? Mike looks up at me, his face full of insecurity. That's when I feel my blood boil. Frustrated, I declare, Mike is not a liar. The one lying here is you, Grandma. Ha! She must not have expected me to stand up to her. My mother-in-law looks shocked as I stand up, pointing dramatically at the table. I made this entire Christmas feast, including the corn soup. Everything from start to finish. Naturally, the room erupts in response. My flustered mother-in-law begins to panic and yells, "Wait, wait, wait. Emily, you've been lying this whole time. Have you lost your mind?" "I'm not lying," I assert. Sophia, pulled into this, looks up at me surprised. "Yes, it was delicious. I made that too." You're terrible, stealing credit for Jake's mom's cooking and trying to set her up. "You're the worst daughter-in-law," I accuse. Attempting to defend herself, my mother-in-law hesitates, then shouts, "It's a secret family recipe. I can't tell you in public." The relatives, initially disgusted by our petty fight, start to see who was in the right. But my husband Jake appears near the door, restraining me with a stern voice and face. "Emily, that's enough." My mother-in-law clings to Jake, looking like a tragic heroine. Jake, addressing his mother, says, "Mom, you're the awful one here. This entire Christmas feast Emily made all day while taking care of the kids. Trying to take credit for it is pretty low." Caught in the middle again, Sophia looks at the creamy stew, recalling how sweet it was. "Yeah, it was insanely sweet, wasn't it, Mom?" Seizing the opportunity, Jake reveals, "If it's sweet, it's tasty." She's always been cautious about salt and oil, but uses sugar with no limits. So all her dishes taste like a block of sugar. The truth unfolds, exposing mother-in-law's lies. Disillusioned, the family realizes that all the recent dishes were likely made by me, not her. Mother-in-law, exposed for all her lies, panics and tries to appeal to Jake's emotions. "Why are you siding with your daughter-in-law? I'm your mom," she pleads. The revelation leaves everyone in the family disillusioned with the mother-in-law. "I never wanted to say this, Mom. I thought your actions were driven by loneliness since Dad isn't here, so I've been having Emily put up with you. But what you're doing is nothing short of harassment towards her. There's no reason to protect you anymore. Don't see Emily or the kids ever again." Jake, firm in dismissing his begging mother, starts to clean up the Christmas feast. Then he apologizes to the relatives, saying, "I'm sorry for the disturbance this Christmas. Emily, Mike, let's go." As Jake takes Mike's hand and stands up, Mike glances at his grandmother and asks, "Grandma, where's your I'm sorry?" "When you lie, you say I'm sorry, then you get forgiven, right? Isn't that right, Mom?" I get it. You have to be forgiving when it comes to raising kids, but a simple sorry isn't going to cut it. Luckily, I didn't have to worry for even a second. Mother-in-law clenched her lips so tightly they looked like they'd bleed, clearly having no intention of apologizing. Seeing her, Jake sighed as if he had enough. Grandma can't even say I'm sorry, and she's supposed to be an adult. How sad. Let's go home and have Mom's delicious Christmas feast. Okay. We left behind a growling mother-in-law and confused relatives, carrying our sleeping daughter and the Christmas feast. As we left Mike's house, we went straight to my parents' place and served the Christmas feast. Everyone was delighted and ate with joy. This is what I had been striving for, so my heart was full. Jake, of course, apologized profusely and promised never to let us meet his mother-in-law again. Apparently, the atmosphere at my house remained awkward. His relatives dispersed, leaving only a soulless mother-in-law and some bland food. The next day, mother-in-law's sister and her husband, as well as Jake's sister, visited as promised. Seeing the bland food, they chuckled and said figures. Apparently, mother-in-law's lack of cooking skills was a well-known fact among her relatives. "So, you brag about hosting a Christmas feast. I wondered what magic trick you'd pull, probably just jealous of Emily, who's good at cooking and praised by Jake and Mike." "Sorry for the inconvenience," they said after hearing the details from Jake. My sister-in-law thanked me for my efforts, and Sophia called to apologize. I'm sorry for jumping to conclusions. It turns out Sophia also enjoys cooking, and we bonded over a recipe for braised pork belly. The misunderstanding with Jake was cleared up, and I found new friends who share my cooking hobby. I felt refreshed, enjoying a carefree Christmas. Of course, mother-in-law wasn't going to back down that easily, but I was well prepared. As I was making cornbread, my phone rang. It was mother-in-law. Excuse me, where are you? It's dinner time. Do your duty as a wife. Are you making the same mistake and coming over again? She's furious on the other end of the line. How dare you? I came here because you didn't apologize. Come home and clear the misunderstanding with our relatives. Then I'll forgive you for embarrassing me. No thanks. What? You'll be the one left out by the family. That won't be a problem. What to begin with, the one who put on airs and got shunned by the relatives was mother-in-law. I've even made plans to cook with Sophia next time. What? Mother-in-law probably never imagined that I become close to father-in-law's side of the family. So, what now? Still got any moose left? I add another blow to the stunned mother-in-law. Also, I'm not returning to that house. What? Yes, the kids and I have been staying at my parents' house since Christmas. We're planning to find a new place to live now that the holidays are over. Initially, living near Mike's family was mother-in-law's strong insistence. But Jake's workplace is actually closer to my parents' house. Didn't Jake tell you to stay away from daughter-in-law? But since mother-in-law can't listen better than a child, we've decided to physically distance ourselves. Right now, Jake is the only one living there, and he'll leave once he's ready. What? Where? Where are you? Who knows? You think you can get away with not cherishing Jake's mom? Yes, because Jake and sister-in-law have forgiven me. It's okay. Well, wait. What? Thank you for everything so far, mother-in-law. I'm so happy I'll never have to see you again. Goodbye. Wait a minute. With a bit of a laugh, I hang up on mother-in-law, who's screaming like a villain in a superhero show. Then I block her number to make sure I never have to hear her voice again. 2 years later. Mom, what's for dinner today? Hamburgers. Yay! I love Mom's burgers the most in the world. Sarah loves them too. Dad loves them the most in the universe. Dad, that's not fair. My family happily waits for my cooking in the living room, playing around as I fry the burgers in the kitchen. My heart warms up again today, watching them eagerly await my cooking, smiles on their faces.